Okay, we're live.
Hello, everybody. I'm so excited to be here with Behind the Chair. My name is Rochelle Maribojoc. I am a Moroccanoil artist and Elite Color Pro, and I'm excited to share with you some tips that I love using when I'm working in my salon on brunettes who like dimension but don't like brass, right? So let's get started. For me, what's really important before I start is a good consultation because that's what sets us up for success when we're speaking to our clients on what their hair goal is. So, with our new Moroccanoil hair color that just launched March 1st this year, so exciting! We have this amazing hair color swatch book. And in the swatch book, we have this level finder and underlying pigment finder that is super helpful when I'm doing a consultation for my blondies or brunettes that want to be a little bit more blonde and want a little bit more dimension. When I'm working through my consultation, it's really important to me that my client and I are on the same page and we have the same realistic goals. It's also important that I keep their hair healthy during that blonding process. So using this as a tool behind the chair, and I want to show you guys how it looks. I can really sit in and talk to my client. Here's my lovely client today that is going to get a dimensional rich brunette with no brass. But when I'm sitting with my client during a consultation, I'm really looking at their hair, assessing their hair, making sure I'm finding out where they are in the level system, and then looking at their inspiration photos, where they want to go, right? So we have to understand where our canvas is, our canvas that we're working with, and where their goal is. And this is a really great tool to use to also make your clients understand what their hair needs to go through when they're blonding. So how many of us out there, we have clients, they don't want to see any warm tones in their blondes. But I feel like now that is a trend, so that's been really great. But what clients don't realize is all of this underlying pigment, our hair is going to be warm when we're lifting. So when they see this visually, it really helps them understand where me as a stylist, I need to lift their hair, but also what their hair can take. If they're at a level 2, which in Moroccanoil hair color is black, and they want to be lifted to a level 9, there is a lot of levels that their hair needs to lift to. And so I always kind of put it on their hair. I always communicate, I will always lift your hair to what it can take. Also, we want to maintain the integrity of your hair and the health of your hair, so it can take one or more sessions to get to your goal. But I do have some tips and tricks that I've used to ensure that I will lift past all of this brassy tones on my rich dimensional brunettes. So let's get started. I am going to show you first my sectioning. Let me take off my doll head here. So this is my mannequin showing my sectioning. So when I'm doing any blondie, this is typically how I section their hair, depending on if I'm doing a partial or I try to actually stay away from the word partial versus full. It's for me, I feel like it's better to talk about customized blonding versus partial or full. But we're so used to using the word partial and full, right? But when I feel like when we use customized blonding, it gives a little bit more value, and I feel like the client, they're not so stuck on, oh, you're only giving me a partial blonde versus a full blonde. So when I'm going in and sectioning off my client's hair, this is usually my sectioning. And how I got this sectioning, I did a middle parting, separating the left side to the right side, from the front all the way back to the nape. So it just separates the left side to the right side. After I separated the left to the right, I went to the top apex here, and then I went down to the ear, the top of the ear, separating the front to the back. After I separated the front to the back, I went from my client's usually recession here to separate the top mohawk area to the side. And then I like to clip everything away because it keeps me neat and organized when I'm foiling. But I also sometimes will section out the money piece or the face frame, and that will be my front sectionings. And then for the back, I like to think of this area here in the nape. I like to think of this as a part of their face frame, because all of this hair usually our clients bring forward, and it connects the face frame to all of these lighter pieces here in the nape. A lot of the times, we forget about this nape area, and it does give you that partial look or that partial highlight finish when our clients have a lot of depth here in the back and a lot of brightness in the front, especially when our clients have layers in their hair. You can almost see like the disconnection. So this piece right here in the nape is really important to me because this connects all the way here in the front when our clients pull their hair forward. So going back to the sectionings in the back here, I take a diagonal back section, and now this depends on the density, how much hair your client has, and the look that they want to achieve. If they want it to be a little bit more bold, you might have a few more foils packed in here. If they want it to be really dimensional and soft, your sectioning back here might be a little smaller. But I like to section this off to connect to the face frame, and then just 2 sections on the left side and the right side, and then split down the middle. So this is usually how I section off the hair, especially when I'm doing a dimensional blonde. So I hope this helps. I'm definitely a visual learner, so seeing sectionings like this really helped me break the head down, and almost gives me a roadmap of where I'm going once I start foiling, because it's very easy for us to get lost in our foiling, and we tend to start to overfoil. And that is, for me, one of the biggest mistakes that I made early on when I was trying to achieve a more dimensional blonde or a dimensional brunette. I would always get lost in my sectioning, and I would tend to overfoil. All right, so there's the sectioning for my model here. And I've actually already foiled half of her head yesterday. I am gonna go in and foil the other half, and I want to show you guys how I love to gloss and tone after I rinse out the foils. So for today, we won't have the finished look on this slide, but I will show you how to get there, and then we'll post our formulation and then the before and after photos on our Facebook, the Behind the Chair Facebook page. And I think the video will also be posted on there as well. So I'm gonna put this down here. And then just quickly talk about the really important things that I think about when I am creating a rich dimensional brunette with no brass, right? We want to lift past all of this brass that is exposed when we are lightening the hair. So Number one is our canvas, what we're working with, because our canvas plus our formula will always give us our result, right? So the texture of my client's hair, do they have fine, medium, or coarse hair? That is really important to think about when you are formulating to ensure that you are using the correct product and the correct pickup, the correct placement. This all goes together. And then my formula, what product am I going to use? Am I going to use my really strong lightener that needs to give me 9 levels of lift when they have coarse, thick hair, right? Or am I going to use my more gentle formula, my more gentle lightener for clients who have finer and more fragile hair? So these are very important to think about when you're going through your consultation and you're feeling your client's hair, you're looking at your client's hair. And then placement, I showed you guys my doll head. It's important for me to have a little roadmap, what my sectioning is gonna look like, where I'm gonna leave depth and where I'm gonna leave those brighter pops in my sectioning. And I will go over that as I'm foiling my doll head today. So my set placement is my sections and my subsections. And then for my pickup, my weave, we have a few different types of pickup, and I'll go over that as well. And then processing time, am I remixing the lightener as I'm working through the head? Because we all know our lightener has a lifespan of about 50 minutes. Once we start mixing up our lightener, it starts working right away, and then at that 20 to 30 minute mark, it starts to decline a little bit. So making sure I'm remixing, and I'm also visually processing, allowing that lightener to really lighten the hair past the brassy tones, and then past the underlying pigments that are exposed that tend to leave the hair really brassy. If they don't process long enough and we're stuck here, yes, we could tone it to neutralize it, but once that toner rinses out, our client is going to be walking around with brassy hair. So making sure we're visually processing, and then saturation. I definitely will show you guys how I like to saturate. I really just make sure I'm saturating to get a clean lift with my lightener. So that is very important. And let me just quickly go over our stitch and weave. I love going back to the basics because really the basics is what's most important, I feel like. But here is our stitch, our pickup, our weave. We call it a bunch of different things now, but I stick to the 3 of these. So I either do a fine stitch, a baby light, where if they're finer, they're smaller and they're closer together, a natural or medium stitch, and then a textured stitch. So yeah, those are the stitches that I like to work with. All right, so now that I have like the basics, the most important things that I think about when I'm foiling, I'm gonna go in. I've actually already mixed my lightener. So it's been sitting here, but this is not a real client. This is my doll head, so I think she'll be okay. I have faith that this will lift still. I'm going to be using our new Moroccanoil Blonde Voyage powder lightener. I mean, look at it. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. It goes in with all of the branding and that iconic turquoise blue that I just love. I feel like I'm going on a vacation whenever I'm using Moroccanoil products because of the beautiful packaging. But this is the Blonde Voyage powder lightener. It lifts up to 9 levels. It is powered by Bond Care and Argan ID, and that is so important when I am lightening my client's hair, right? Because the biggest thing for me is keeping that hair healthy during that blonding process. So that's what I'm going to be using today. I mixed my Blonde Voyage powder lightener with 20 volume cream developer from Moroccanoil. It comes in this beautiful bottle, and it is 20 volume, 6% oxidative cream developer. All right, so let's get started. I'm just going to clip this left side away so it's not in my way. Usually when I'm foiling my clients, let's say she has a natural level 2, which a lot of my clients are like at a level 2, level 3 range. They have really dark hair, coarse hair, and I need to ensure that this hair lifts, right? So sometimes I will actually even start in the front hairline here if they really are just looking for a face frame or something just very dimensional, because that ensures that that foil is going to sit there for the full 50 minutes. I'm going to have enough time for that to process. But for our doll head today, I'm actually going to start at the nape here. I'm just going to take this section out. And when I'm staying clean like this with my sectioning, it really just keeps me organized. And I feel like I get through the sections a lot faster. So what I'm doing, I'm taking my subsection, and because I want her to be a brunette still, I'm not really going to keep these foils packed close together. I was taught in beauty school, 12 years ago, the more foils, the better. Keep them packed close together, but that is not the look anymore that our clients are looking for. So I've almost had to go back and relearn different techniques, right? Because what I was ending up with was something that was too blonde and had no dimension. So making sure I leave some depth right underneath my pickup, my subsection here. I'm gonna make sure this is close enough for everyone to see. I'm actually gonna raise her up a little bit. There you go. So here's my subsection. When you're working with brunettes or clients who have darker levels of hair or even coarse hair, it's really important that you keep those subsections fine, so you get full saturation and a really good lift. And I just went in and I kind of went halfway through the section here, and I pushed up any little baby hairs. It also diffuses my highlight or my light line a little bit when I do a little bit of a tease when I'm foiling there. So I'm going to take my lightener and I'm just going to glue the hair onto the foil and use the back of my hand to paint this lightener on there. And I'm also, when I'm doing a rich dimensional brunette, I'm keeping the lightener off the scalp. My goal is to keep her brunette and not give her a ton of blonde highlights. But I'm also just blending that up. I'm not sure if you guys can see this, but because this light is so bright, but I am really saturating to where I can't really see the hair through that lightener, so that I can ensure I get really good lift. And when I'm folding my foils, I'm making sure I'm folding it neatly. And you can fold this again, but I just like to keep mine flat, because honestly, I feel like that gives me the cleanest lift and the fastest lift when there's just one fold in the hair. Maybe it's me, maybe it's just me, but I feel like I get a cleaner lift. So I'm just taking the same sectioning diagonal back. I'm going to take a slice and I'm going to weave that in. My pickup here is, I would say, pretty textured. Like, I'm making sure when I'm doing my pickup that I can see the hair. It's not going to disappear in all of that darker hair when this is all finished. But I like to do a weave. I usually don't really slice because I like for it to look, as natural as possible. So I'm going to go in, saturate my section, and I'm going to blend this up. Now, when you are working on someone who is a level 2, level 3, you do have to keep in mind the more you blend up here towards the root, you might run the risk of creating a little bit of warmth there if that's not what you are wanting, and that's not your goal. I would say you can really tease the hair a little bit more to diffuse that line and just paint on and avoid kind of feathering up, because it will run the risk of exposing a little bit of warmth when it's not fully saturated. So I'm just going to take another section and making sure I have depth in between. So all of this hair, we don't want to keep these foils too close together. We want to leave dimension. We want our client to still be brunette after this. I'm going to take the same pickup, tease a little bit, put my foil in. Grab my lightener and paint on. So I love my Blonde Voyage powder lightener is what I use behind the chair. It gives me amazing lift. It gives me up to 9 levels of lift, but it also keeps my client's hair healthy. It keeps my hair healthy too, because it's what I use on myself. But I love how consistent it is when it, eats away at all of that artificial color. We all have clients that have processed hair, right? Most of my clients have processed hair, and they like to go darker in winter, lighter in the summer. But I feel like no matter what is in their hair, permanent, semi-permanent, natural regrowth, it really does almost like eat away at the melanin so evenly. It gives that even, consistent lift that I need, because it makes my job easier when I'm lightening the hair. All right, so I'm gonna fold this up, and usually I'll do about 3 to 4 foils here in the back, just to ensure this has connection to the front hair face frame. But I'm gonna do one more. Sometimes I'll even connect it all the way to the side sections here. It really just depends on how much lightness and depth my client is looking for. But I have a before and after of a model that I did this week using the same placement. She was a natural level 2, and we made her a beautiful dimensional brunette using the same placement, the same sectioning. And I can't wait for you guys to see the before and after on that. So I'm going to paint again. And when I'm working behind the chair, I'm not like talking. Well, actually, I am talking this much to my client, catching up on the tea. But I tend to work a little bit faster. But yeah, this placement really I can do in like from start to finish with my client in 2.5 hours, because that lightener is lifting nicely for me, and I feel like it is a little bit more powerful. Before I was using the Blonde Voyage powder lightener, I was a 20 volume, 30 volume girl, but I've actually gone down to 15 volume, 10 volume even when I'm working behind the chair, because it does lift pretty fast. So if you're trying out the new powder lightener for the first time, I would say start with a 10 or 15 volume and really watch your foils, because it is really quick. But it's great because it's really cut down my processing time behind the chair. So I just took all of the hair in between those foils in the back, and what I want to do, I want this to stay connected to the front, and if I just leave all this depth, yes, if that's the look they're going for, but I like to just tip this out a little bit, bring a little brightness, a little bit of brightness to these ends, just so that it's more connected. It almost gives you that balayage finish versus the highlight, traditional highlight finish. So I'm taking this section and I'm over directing it to the front. This ensures that when this lays back, it's not going to give me a horizontal line. I struggled with that before. I would be blow drying my client, and sometimes no matter how much you tease the hair or how much you tease, when you place that foil or that light line horizontally, that's how it's gonna look when it's done and it's lifted. But really just that simple over direction in the front blends out any lines when you're tipping out your client's ends. And I'm still leaving depth here. I'm not trying to tip everything out and make all of the tips light and blonde, but I do want a little bit of brightness just to have some connection. So I'm taking my lightener, making sure I'm only painting on the ends. So making sure I don't go too high or put too much lightness. Okay, so now that that is in, saturated, I'm gonna fold my foil up, pull that away. And then, let's see, how are we on time? Let me take a look. Okay, that went by really fast. It's already 26 minutes just for the back there. But typically what I would do, I'm gonna actually jump to the front to make sure that you guys can see the most important part, right? This is the most important part because this is what our clients see. Not that the back isn't important, but this is what our clients see when they're being blow dried or when they're done, when they're finished. And if they're not blonde enough here, or if they don't see enough brightness here, they're not going to feel like they're dimensional. So I'm going to jump to the front, but quickly I'm going to talk about how I would foil this in the back here. It goes by really fast because I like to keep a lot of depth back here. So I would usually take out this last section and I will cut a section cut this in half, almost creating a triangle. So I'm going to put this up. So I'm going to create this triangle here, and you can see my client's density today. She has very fine hair towards the end here. But if I'm looking at this, if this was my real client, this section here gives me a triangle, right? So I usually will maintain all of this depth, but I'll take this section here right above that triangle. I'll do a weave here, and depending on what they want to see, do they want to see a lot more brightness or something very subtle, I will do the same thing. I will foil this, tease it a little bit, foil this, and then I will take whatever is left underneath. And I mean, yes, you can leave this all darker up here, but it's really important that we take this, we tease it, and we connect this to the bottom sections here. So what I would do, I would tease it and I would tip out all of the ends that are left out. I would still weave it a little bit, but leave it pretty dense to make sure there's brightness towards the ends and everything will have flow and connection. Oh, I love this question. What are your favorite products from Moroccanoil? This is a very hard one for me. It literally changes every time. Thank you for that question, by the way. My favorite product for styling would have to be our OG Moroccanoil treatment. It is literally liquid gold. If there is one product to help repair, help with styling, help with elasticity, help with blow drying time. It is that original Moroccan oil treatment, what it all started with for us at Moroccanoil. I love, of course, shampoo and conditioner are hydrating, shampoo or conditioner or moisture repair. Also the volume. I love it all, but it's really important when we have clients who are coloring their hair that they are using color safe hair products that are going to maintain their hair color and help the longevity of their hair color, but also the health of their hair. So once I'm done with that triangle here, I will usually take this section and do 3 to 4 foils, leaving a lot of depth in between and following the same placement as I did back here. I will usually do a pickup, either medium or textured pickup, making sure I leave depth. So if I was going to foil, I would grab a slice here, weave that, leave this depth. I would move on to my next section. So you can see my sectioning, my subsections, they're pretty thick. There's a lot of depth in between those foils, right? And then I would do the same thing. I would take all the hair left in between those foils, over direct it to the front, tease that, and tip out those ends to ensure that there's connection with all the hair back here. So moving on to the front. So once I'm done with the back, I'll move on to the front. I usually will start at the side section here. And this also goes pretty fast. I think I've counted how many foils that I put in the head when I'm doing this dimensional brunette. And I want to say it's like 30 to 40 foils throughout the entire head. So it goes really fast. But I'm going to go to the side here. And what I'm looking at here when I'm foiling the side is like the recession, like the peaks and the valleys. So if I'm looking at my model here, she has a little bit of a peak there and a little bit of a peak here. So I usually will take where the hair peaks in that front hairline, and I'll take a triangle. And that is a diagonal back section for me, and that will create a triangle, right? It's like an upside down triangle there. I will take the top, I'll take that, making sure at the hairline here that I pick up that hair so that my client can see that pop of blonde, that pop of dimension in the hair. Let me turn her this way. And here in the front, I'm not going to tease or back comb too much. I'm actually just going to take my foil, pop that on. And I love an irregular stitch like this. For me, it gives me a more natural finish when I have a little bit of an irregular stitch. But that is a pretty heavy stitch that I did, almost like a medium stitch. I'm gonna pop in my lightener. Okay, so going back to my product, I love the dry texture spray and the smoothing lotion. I always will use the both of those products on my clients when I'm finishing. It gives them like that beautiful texture, but the smoothing lotion really just adds a little bit more shine and smoothness on the ends of my client's hair when I'm finishing them. And everyone that gets their hair done by me also gets a little photo shoot at the end, right? We got to do it for the gram, and it photographs their hair so beautifully. Their hair will always look smooth when I use a smoothing lotion on the ends of their hair. Okay, so now I'm going to take this section that was left behind underneath that triangle. I'm going to over direct this, and this is very important, especially in the front, so that we're not left with any lines. If my client is sitting like this, I will sometimes even step to the other side. I will take this section, over direct here to the other side, and then I'll tease that to ensure there's like softness there, and then I'll weave. Gives me extra insurance. And I'll take my foil and I'll tip out what's left. I'm gonna grab, sorry, I'm all up in the camera. Grab my lightener. So I'm curious to know if any of you out there or anyone watching, if you've played with the new Moroccan hair color line. So we've just launched in March. We have a full professional hair color collection that is filled with all of the amazing benefits of argan oil, but we have a new technology. So our new breakthrough proprietary system is pro-arginine and argan ID, and there's no other color line that has this amazing proprietary system that ensures the hair's integrity and health during the hair color process, because that is the most important to us. Working behind the chair, you know, it really should be the health and integrity of our client's hair, right? And for my next section here on this side, I'm just gonna go, I'm looking at where, so I did a peak here. I'm gonna go where there's like a valley. So where it dips in her recession, I'm gonna take a section there. I'm gonna foil this here. So I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna weave it, making sure I pick up right here at her hairline so she can see dimension. I do almost a textured pickup there to ensure that I'm not losing all of this brightness. If I do a baby light or a fine pickup here, this is gonna disappear on top of all of this depth here. So making sure when you're picking up, there is enough hair that will show throughout all of this depth. So I'm not going to foil this, but I am going to go through the placement. It's kind of the same thing. It goes by really fast when you're doing it, but I will usually paint this on here, and then I will take the hair underneath, over direct, tease, and make sure there is brightness on these ends, right? And I will take my next section, and then I start to almost pivot my section going more horizontal. So I start at a diagonal back, I'll pivot going more horizontal, and then when I'm here, I'll take a section here, and then this lays horizontal. So I'll take this, I'll weave. When I get closer and closer to her part line, I usually will do a finer or a smaller pickup, just because I don't want it to be too chunky. I want it to look softer on the top of her head. So I love doing a heavier pickup and a more textured pickup in the interior here. But once I get closer and higher up the head, I like to go a little bit more softer, and that just allows my money piece or my face ring to really pop. But it'll also break up and give dimension to where there's a lot of depth back here, right? So I'll take this at a finer pickup, weave that, and usually we'll start to stretch it a little bit, and I'll start to paint at a diagonal back. I'll just show you that. I'll put my foil in there, take my lightener, and I'll start to paint at a diagonal back, making sure that I leave depth and leave the brightness more towards the front hairline. So I'll paint this on. Making sure the hair is fully saturated, because this is what's going to give me my lift. And then if my client has really long hair, I make sure I leave the hair straight and I have clean saturation. Yes, I can grab all the hair on the ends if they have longer hair, you know, put it in a foil and saturate. But what I've discovered is that when the hair is almost like bundled up or like in like a messy, when it's messy on the ends and not like laying straight and flat, I don't get the clean lift that I want, right? So really, it's about, yes, the product. We have to have good product, but we have to really think about our technique and our placement, because that's also what's going to determine the outcome of our work. If we're keeping it clean, keeping it flat, we're going to get a clean lift. And usually I will take this area here, whatever is left out, I will take that over, direct it to the front, tease, and I will tip that out to make sure everything is connected. Okay, so we have, 40 minutes. Oh my goodness. I'm going to try to work fast. Let's talk about face frame, because face frame is very important. It's what our clients see, and it really changes up their look, right? So talking to your clients about how they want their face frame is very important. Making sure it's not too bold, not too thick. It's just the right amount that they want, because you don't want to have to go back and fix it if you're not talking about how they want it to look. So when I'm asking my clients, do you want your face frame to look bold or dainty, softer? Do you like it to start at the root, or do you like it to start, maybe I recommend you starting a little bit lower because you do like that really rich brunette look. You don't want your face frame or your highlight to go really high, because that's just gonna brighten up your face a lot. So talking about how bold, how dainty, and then how bright is really important. So for this model here, I'll just show you. She wanted a dainty face frame. So what I did here, you can kind of see the brightness around her face. It really does pop underneath. Look at all that brightness underneath. But when her hair is down, it's really soft, and it's not like a chunk coming from her root all the way down. So my sectioning here, I did a diagonal back sectioning, making sure if my client has baby hairs, because they usually do, they have baby hairs here in the front hairline, making sure I take that and I almost like leave it away. I backcomb it a little bit, and I make sure I leave it out so that it doesn't look like breakage, or it's very fragile there, so it doesn't break off. Making sure you keep your hairline nice and healthy. Make sure those baby hairs are out of the way. I'll take my first section at a diagonal back, and I will start with the baby light. But for her, for my model today, it's going to look like it's thicker because she has a ton of hair here in the front, which is usually not the case with our clients, right? So I'm going to take a section. Sometimes, make sure you do it if your section's not clean. Like if I'm doing this behind the chair and my section is not clean, I will stop and redo it. Making sure you pick up that first hair at the part line and you do a nice clean pickup. So I'm going to take this foil, foil this, make sure that is in. So we have two lighteners from Moroccanoil that we launched with. We have our Blonde Voyage Powder Lightener that I'm using right now. We also have a clay lightener that lifts up to 8 levels. It is amazing for freehand, balayage, open air balayage. It has that bond care and argan ID system to ensure the health and integrity of our client's hair when we are lightening them. It also has kaolin clay that keeps that beautiful shell for open air balayage to ensure the hair stays nice and moist, and you get that 8 levels of lift. Okay, so I'm going to try to work faster here. For my next section, I will start to pivot backwards, going at a diagonal back. So I'll do the same thing. I'll leave hair in between, but the hair that is left in between is the hair that is weaved out from my section. So I will take a section, I'll leave this hair here, I'll foil this, and then I'll jump to my next section, pivot back, diagonal back. And in that section there, I will do the same thing. Make sure I'm picking up right here at the part line, picking up that hair. And as I move further away from her hairline, I will start to do a little bit more of a heavy pickup, right? So that it doesn't fully disappear. So here you can see that my pickup starts to become a little bit heavier, especially back here, where this is where I'm gonna see all of this pop in the front. And I'll take another section, pivot back, and I'll foil this here, leaving that hair out, weaving, and then I'll start to do more of a medium to heavy pickup. I'll foil that there, and you can see my pickup is pretty heavy, but when I'm painting on my lightener, I'm also making sure where this lightener goes is where that light is going to be, right? So where you paint on, that's where that brightness is going to be. I'm doing a diagonal back, still leaving depth right here in the back, leaving it brighter in the front. Okay, I'm going to try to work a little bit faster here, make sure it's saturated. We're doing a rich, dimensional brunette with lots of pops in the hair, but still keeping that dimension, not overfoiling, right? That is the biggest thing when we want to keep our brunettes dimensional, is keep the foils at a minimum. Okay, so let's say all the foils are in there in the front. I know I skipped a few, but for time's sake, I want to finish off and show you the very top section here. So all of the hair that would be left out in the front face frame or the money piece, I will take that, but in real life situation in the salon, once I'm done with this side, I will then go in to the other side, foil that, and whatever hair is left out on that side, I will combine it with the right side. So all the hairs left out in real life situation in a salon, this is foiled as well. I will take all that hair, I will tease it, weave it, and then brighten up those ends, making sure when I'm brightening up my ends, I'm paying attention to where do I want to see that lightness, what is the end goal. Maybe I use the face as a reference guide. We're leaving that tip out from her nose down, maybe her lip or chin or her eye, wherever you'd like. But the lower it is, the more dimension you're going to have through the mids here. So I like to just, especially if they have long hair, keep in mind how much brightness this is going to have. Okay, so our very last section here at the top. Now I'm left with this top section. Right? When I'm working behind the chair, I go from side to side. So I'll do the right side, and then I'll move on to the left side. And then I'll do the face frame right side, I'll move on to the left side. So same here, I'm gonna start at the top here. Usually my clients, I'm like over my client's head, but what I'm looking at and what I end up with is this shape. What I usually do, it's almost like a triangle, but what I usually do, I take the very point from her face frame and I go all the way across to this other point in the back, and I'm left with a triangle-ish. I'll take a section here, I'll weave this, put that in a foil, making sure my pickup is a little bit finer because I don't want it to be too chunky, too light, right? So I'll go in there and I'll do a softer pickup. I mean, depending on the finished look that you're wanting to create, you can adjust your pickup. Take a finer pickup, tease that, and then I'll foil this. I'll leave that in the for a tip out, and then I'll pivot back, another triangle, and I'll do the same thing. I'll take the top section, weave that, leave this for a tip out in the end. I'm pivoting until I'm left at a horizontal parting at the part line. So again, I'm taking my section, I'm going from this end to this end. I'm taking another section, keeping this front here as my guide, and I'm pivoting back. And then I start to pivot more and more until I'm at the part line at a horizontal. And I'll take this section, I'll do a kind of a medium pickup or a baby light, depending on your end result that you'd like. I usually will take all the baby hair here, tease that down. It'll also diffuse my line when this is highlighted, because when we take a horizontal weave right here, this is going to cover a lot of ground. So make sure if you don't want it to be too bright up there, you still want her to be rich, brunette, but dimensional, that you keep your pickup pretty light or medium. Nothing too chunky, because what you lighten will be bright. All right, so this is my last section. Want to make sure it's fully saturated. I'm using the Blonde Voyage powdered lightener from Moroccanoil. Lifts up to 9 levels. It has that bond care and argan ID to ensure that my client's hair is healthy. Okay, so I'll fold that up. So you can really get through this top section with 4 foils. Usually I have 4 foils in the top here. 4 foils in the top with all the hair over directed to the other side and tipped out. So depending on how dense my client's hair is, sometimes I'll split this in 2 and do 2 separate tip outs for all of the hair here at the mohawk area. So really you can get through like 4 foils on the side, 4 foils on the top, 4 foils in the back, nape, and then maybe 5 or 6 foils throughout here. And that goes really quickly, but ensuring that you are letting this process for the full amount of time to give you that lift and to make sure that your client's hair is lifting past all of these underlying pigments that are exposed. But also we want to keep in mind, if your client's hair, if you can feel like it is already compromised, having that conversation of being able to lighten your client's hair to what it can take, because our client's hair integrity and health is the most important. So after I wash my lightener, my client is done processing, I will usually shampoo, condition my client, and also I love using the restorative hair mask in the sink or in the wash bowl to give them an extra treatment to keep their hair nice and healthy during that blonding process. I'll rinse that out. I'll condition. I love using our all-in-one leave-in conditioner before I gloss and tone the hair. Now, I wish I had enough time to gloss and tone her, but I'm going to gloss and tone her off camera, but I do want to show you and mix for you what I'm going to be using. So for our Moroccanoil hair color collection, we launched permanent hair color, demi-permanent gloss, lighteners, we have color infusion, and all of the oxidative cream developers and the gloss activator you need. But I want to share with you our breakthrough system of pro-arginine and argan ID. So this is what is in our gloss and really what sets our gloss apart. Pro-arginine is an alkalizing agent that also maintains the integrity of the hair. And argan ID, it is what's in our original product, argan oil. It's micro-encapsulated, so it has the ability to go deep into the cortex and infuse the hair with all of its amazing benefits of antioxidants, moisture repair, essential fatty acids that is lost during that lightening process, because we know with presulfates, it eats away at everything. Artificial melanin, natural melanin, and all the moisture that is in the hair. So it actually replenished all of that. And I will always gloss my clients after their blonding service. So I like to lift my clients to about a level 9 or 8. That is where all of the underlying pigment of brass is gone, right? So I want to lift them past the brass, and then I like to tone them down to make sure that it's still at that brunette finish, to make sure they're not too light, unless they really want that high contrast. But it's really important that we lift them past all of these brassy tones and then tone them back down if they don't want any brass at all. So I will mix up our Color Calypso Demi-Permanent Gloss 5N. It also comes in this beautiful packaging. I don't know, it's too bright. I'm going to mix this up with our Color Calypso Gloss Activator. This has the argan oil in all of our activator and cream developers. And then our Demi-Permanent Gloss is powered by Pro-Arginine and Argan ID. It's a new technology out. I'm going to do 5N for her roots. And then I'm going to do 8N, which is a light blonde, and 8VB, equal parts with Color Calypso Gloss Activator from her mids to her ends. And I love this formulation because it gives me that violet. It has that coolness, but it also has that red, right? Violet has red, so it gives it a little bit of a balance, but it also has that blue, in case you have clients that do have that really warm underlying tone. I love using the VB for that in Color Calypso. And then I mix that with our 8N for light blonde, just to give it a little bit more like of a natural finish. And I want to show you our swatch book. So this is a beautiful swatch book. It is for our demi-permanent, our permanent hair color, and they are all magnetic. But I'm going to show you the swatches that I'm going to be toning with. Let me grab this before I log off here. We are going to be posting the before and after on the Behind the Chair Facebook, so stay tuned for those. I have that 8N right there, right here, and then 8VB for a cool blonde to make sure that she is past the brass. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. If you have any questions on our amazing new hair color line, you can visit MoroccanOilProfessionals.com. Also, follow at Moroccanoil Pro on Instagram, and I'm Locks by Rochelle. I appreciate you all for joining in, and I hope to see you all soon. Bye, guys.